And greetings, boys and girls around the world. I'm here to explain to you that the American public is not stupid. The fact is, the media lies to you, and the Democrats slash communists in the government lie to you. Repeatedly, daily, hour by hour, the lies come out. For example, years ago, Clarence Thomas had to face confirmation hearings controlled by the Democrat slash communist. Joe Biden was in charge of the hearing. The lawyer for Anita Hill was none other than Janet Napolitano, clearly showing that these leftists back in the 90s are in touch with, in cahoots with, and allied with Barack Obama today, just as they were allied with Clinton back in the 90s, and just as they were allied with Jimmy Carter from Georgia, the peanut farmer, just as they were allied with leftists and have influenced policies back in the 1930s until today. They routinely distort and lie. That's not to say that Republicans have not lied or the conservatives don't lie. Perhaps they do. But the leftists have been caught red-handed repeatedly, and the media covers it up. The media perpetuates these lies, showing that the media is corrupt and totally unreliable. Case in point, to give you an example, recently there was a news story on a crowd of angry protesters that showed up to protest Obamacare. One man in the crowd was carrying an automatic weapon on a strap, and it was behind his back with a pistol on his hip. The public saw the back of this man and his assault rifle and the pistol on his hip. And then a statement was made by the reporterette, the lying reporterette from hell, that this shows that this crowd is dangerous and racist. They're not concerned about Obamacare. They're just simply venting their racism. Quite the contrary, because this reporterette and the people who edited the report did not show that the man carrying the assault weapon, don't ask me why, he had a machine gun on a strap over his shoulder, but he was black. The man carrying the assault weapon was black. That shows you the deliberate bias of the media. So when PBS years ago showed you this graph, after showing you pictures of ice melting, glaciers retreating, they don't bother to tell you that the ice melts every summer, but it only melts slightly. The glaciers retreat and grow, but they calve icebergs continually. Glaciers are like rivers of ice that move toward the ocean and break off and fall into the ocean. They've been doing this forever. The fact that they show you up close pictures of big chunks of ice breaking off proves nothing. The fact that they show you ice dripping and running, that proves nothing. Just as the close-up of the assault weapon on the back of a protester showed nothing in regard to racism. The media distorts. It's not as though they didn't have a record of temperature. They did. Long before PBS showed you this graph, long before PBS showed you this totally bogus hoax masquerading as a graph of temperature of the past 1,000 years. Al Gore's Vostok ice core chart was available to PBS. They didn't use it. Al Gore depicts the past 12,000 years on his graph as a blue smudge, but that blue smudge was created with real data points. These data points are available to anybody who wants to see them, and they can be plotted on a chart. You can make your own chart just like this. And to show you that I have indeed plotted these points, here is, for example, chosen at random, data point 74. And you can see that there are not very many data points, and so this is not an accurate depiction of the actual temperature over the past 5,000 years in this case, but it only shows you what was likely. It shows you the range of probability. If there were more data points, we would have a more precise picture of the actual temperature. But this is only a ballpark figure. But PBS had this information back when they showed you this bogus graph based on tree rings. Their graph was based on tree rings. Tree rings, for one thing, don't extend back 1,000 years. But mainly, they only show you years that a tree grew fast and years when the tree grew slowly. It's not an accurate proxy for temperature. It's actually a proxy for growing conditions, including precipitation and rainfall in a particular year. If there was a 100-year stretch of very slow growth, followed by 100 years of rapid growth, you could assume that the temperature was warmer during those 100 years of rapid growth. But that's not the case. The tree rings alternate between narrow and wide and narrow and wide. They don't indicate nothing, which is what you want to use if you're trying to fudge and falsify and distort and muddy the waters. You want to use data that don't indicate nothing. And you want to sit on, obscure, and distract attention from data that does indicate the opposite of what you're arguing. Al Gore's Vostok ice core chart does exactly that. The past 12,000 years of Al Gore's Vostok ice core chart, illustrated by a blue smudge, indicates a range of temperature over the past 12,000 years, a range of 4 degrees Celsius, which is probably about 6 degrees Fahrenheit, over the past 12,000, 10,000, 5,000 years. You can get this data yourself. You can plot your own rough chart, as I did. For example, here's data point 74. Flip it around. Zoom in on the past 1,000 years. Here's a range of 4 degrees. You can see that the past 1,000 years, the temperature was in a range of 3 or 4 degrees. It's not in the shape of a hockey stick at all. We don't know exactly what shape it took, but it did not take the shape of a hockey stick, as indicated by PBS back in 2009, when this data was available. 11 years before, PBS put out this crap. That's why the American public is confused about global warming. It's because the media perpetuates lies.